My fiancée said, "I found someone better. Tom's taking me to London." I replied, "Have fun." She didn't know Tom was my tenant. I waited until they got there, then served his eviction notice and cut the power, leaving them both scrambling for a motel. Hey folks, before we jump into the video, please consider subscribing and giving a thumbs up if you're excited for more stories like this. Thank you. Let's dive in. Sarah and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months, building what I thought was a solid foundation for marriage. She worked in marketing downtown, I owned rental properties and worked commercial real estate, and we'd settled into this comfortable rhythm of shared dinners and weekend plans. That Tuesday at Grind Coffee, our usual spot where we'd had our first date, she destroyed everything with surgical precision. "Jake, I can't do this anymore," she said, reaching into her purse. "I've met someone who can give me the life I actually deserve." The engagement ring slid across our small table with a scraping sound that felt louder than the espresso machine behind us. "His name is Tom, and he's everything you're not. Tomorrow we're flying to London for 2 weeks, first class, staying at the Langham Hotel, dining at restaurants with actual Michelin stars." She leaned forward, voice dropping to ensure maximum damage. "He's taking me to places you've probably never heard of, Jake. Real 5-star experiences, not those quaint bed and breakfasts you think count as luxury." I sipped my coffee and studied her face. "Tom sounds incredible. Where did you meet him?" "He lives downtown in one of those gorgeous converted loft buildings, the kind that actually matters. He's a marketing consultant, travels globally, makes more in a month than you see in 6. She was glowing now. I realized I was settling. "You're stable, reliable, boring. Tom makes me feel alive, like I'm worth something special." I nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds like you've got it all figured out." Her eyebrows twitched, not the reaction she'd expected. "Don't you understand? I'm leaving you for someone who can actually provide the life I want." "I heard you," I said, sliding the ring back toward her. "You should keep this. Tom might want to upgrade it anyway." The confusion on her face was perfect. She'd wanted drama, wanted me to fight for her. Instead, she got calm acceptance. "You're taking this really well," she said suspiciously. "Should I be taking it badly?" I stood up. "You've made your choice, Sarah. I hope London is everything you're dreaming." As I walked away, she called after me with panic in her voice. "That's it? After 4 years, you're just walking away?" I turned back. "You just told me I'm not good enough for the life you want. What would you like me to say to that?" I walked out, already pulling out my phone to call my property management company. Because Tom Mitchell, the sophisticated world traveler about to sweep my ex-fiancée to London, was 3 months behind on rent for my downtown loft. Tom had moved into my converted loft building 6 months ago with what appeared to be impeccable credentials, stellar references from previous landlords, bank statements showing healthy cash flow, employment verification from a prestigious marketing firm. Everything looked perfect on paper, which should have been my first red flag. Within 2 weeks of signing the lease, the red flags started multiplying faster than his excuses. "Hey Jake, slight hiccup with my client payments this month," came his first text when rent was due. "Major corporation bureaucracy, you know how it is. Should have everything sorted by the 15th. The 15th came and went. Then the 30th. Then we were into month 2 with increasingly elaborate stories about delayed invoices, international wire transfer complications, and corporate restructuring affecting his payment schedule. Meanwhile, my building manager was fielding complaints from other tenants about noise violations, unauthorized parties, and suspicious foot traffic at all hours. "The guy in 4B is running some kind of operation up there," Mrs. Patterson from 3 it told me during one of my property visits. "Different people coming and going every night, music until 3 a.m., and yesterday I saw him carrying in professional photography equipment." I started paying closer attention to Tom's social media presence and discovered a carefully curated lifestyle that didn't match someone struggling with cash flow issues. Instagram stories showed expensive dinners at trendy restaurants, designer clothing hauls, weekend trips to Miami and Vegas, all posted with captions about living your best life and success mindset. His LinkedIn proclaimed him a digital marketing strategist and lifestyle consultant with clients across multiple industries, but when I tried to verify his employment with the company on his application, their HR department had never heard of him. The property management company started building an eviction case while I gathered evidence of lease violations. Security cameras caught him bringing in people who clearly weren't guests. They carried luggage and acted like they lived there. My building maintenance guy found evidence that Tom had changed the locks without permission and was advertising the space on short-term rental platforms. This guy's a piece of work, my property attorney told me after reviewing the documentation. Fake references, doctored bank statements, forged employment verification. This isn't just a deadbeat tenant situation. This looks like organized fraud. The final straw came when Mrs. Chin from the building next door contacted me about Tom approaching her with investment opportunities. He'd convinced the elderly woman to give him $15,000 for cryptocurrency investments and business ventures that obviously didn't exist. He seemed so professional, so knowledgeable about finance, she told me tearfully. He showed me charts and projections, promised I'd double my money within 6 months. I realized then that Tom wasn't just a problematic tenant, he was a professional con artist using my building as his base of operations while targeting vulnerable people in the neighborhood. My investigation into Tom's activities revealed a web of deception that went far beyond unpaid rent and noise complaints. Working with my property management company's security team, we discovered he'd been running an elaborate Airbnb scam from my loft, creating multiple fake listings with professional photos and collecting deposits from unsuspecting travelers for overlapping dates. He's got the same apartment listed under 3 different names, my building manager explained, showing me printouts of the fraudulent postings. Premium downtown loft, luxury amenities, 5-star host rating, all complete fabrications. He's been collecting deposits ranging from $800 to $1,500 per booking. The deposits disappeared into various accounts while the actual guests showed up to find either no access to the building or Tom making excuses about plumbing emergencies and maintenance issues. When they demanded refunds, he'd string them along with promises of alternative accommodations that never materialized. Security footage showed at least a dozen confused tourists standing outside my building with their luggage, trying to reach a host who'd suddenly become unreachable. Mrs. Chen's situation was even worse than I'd initially realized. Tom had convinced her to liquidate her retirement savings for what he called exclusive cryptocurrency investment opportunities and a chance to become a partner in his international consulting business. He showed me testimonials from other investors who'd made fortunes, she told me, her hands shaking as she showed me the elaborate presentation materials he'd created. Professional documents, charts showing projected returns, even fake bank statements proving his success with previous clients. The $15,000 she'd given him represented her entire life savings, money she'd been setting aside to help pay for her grandson's college education. Tom had promised to triple her investment within 6 months, then disappeared whenever she tried to contact him about returns or updates. My attorney's investigation revealed that Tom's London business trip with Sarah was actually his exit strategy. This guy knows the walls are closing in, he explained. The timing isn't coincidental, he's planning to disappear permanently before his victims realize they've been scammed and before law enforcement catches up with him. Bank records showed Tom had been systematically draining the fraudulent deposits and Mrs. Chen's investment money into offshore accounts accessible from overseas. The luxury London vacation he'd promised Sarah was being funded entirely by stolen money from elderly neighbors and desperate travelers who trusted his fake listings. He's not taking your ex-fiancée on a romantic getaway, my attorney said grimly. He's fleeing the country with his latest accomplice, using stolen funds to finance their escape while leaving behind a trail of victims and evidence that'll take months to sort through. I spent the next 5 days planning my response with the precision of a military operation, coordinating with my property attorney while monitoring Sarah and Tom's social media posts for confirmation of their travel timeline. Sarah's Instagram stories showed her shopping for the trip, posting photos of designer luggage and expensive outfits with captions like "London bound" and "Finally living the life I deserve." Tom's posts were more strategic, professional headshots and motivational quotes about success and taking risks, carefully crafted to maintain his consultant persona while avoiding specifics about his business or location. "We need to time this perfectly," my attorney advised. "Serve the eviction notice through certified mail exactly 24 hours after their flight departs, then coordinate with utility companies to legally disconnect services. That gives us maximum leverage while ensuring he can't return to destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses." I contacted the building's utility providers and arranged for electricity, water, gas, and internet disconnection pending resolution of the eviction proceedings. Everything was scheduled to activate simultaneously. Tom would find himself locked out of a completely uninhabitable apartment with no way to access his remaining possessions or continue his scams from my property. Meanwhile, I was building a comprehensive case file that would make prosecutors' jobs easier. Bank statements showing the pattern of fraudulent deposits, security footage of unauthorized guests and suspicious activities, testimony from Mrs. Chin and other victims, documentation of the fake Airbnb listings, and evidence of forged lease application materials. This is some of the most thorough documentation I've seen in a fraud case, the detective handling Mrs. Chen's complaint told me. Usually we're working with scattered evidence and reluctant witnesses. You've basically built our entire case for us. I filed formal police reports detailing Tom's fraud schemes and contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit with evidence of interstate fraud involving the fake Airbnb listings and Mrs. Chen's investment scam. The federal agents were particularly interested in Tom's offshore banking activities and the international scope of his operations. Cases like this usually take months to develop, the FBI agent explained. But you've provided enough evidence to justify immediate action. We'll coordinate with international law enforcement to monitor his activities overseas and ensure he can't access additional victims or flee to non-extradition countries. The morning of their departure, I watched from my office window as Tom loaded designer luggage into his BMW, the same car that was probably leased with fraudulent income documentation. Sarah posted a final story showing their first-class boarding passes with the caption, "New Adventures with My Real Man." 24 hours later, while they were settling into their luxury London hotel, every piece of Tom's carefully constructed world began collapsing simultaneously. Sarah's Instagram stories from London started optimistically, photos of their first-class flight, champagne toasts, and the elegant lobby of the Langham Hotel with captions about living like royalty, and this is what real success looks like. But by day 3, the tone shifted dramatically. Tom's credit cards started getting declined at the hotel restaurant during their breakfast, then again at Harrods during what was supposed to be Sarah's shopping spree. The banks had frozen his accounts after fraud alerts triggered by my police reports hit their automated systems. There's been some kind of banking error, Tom told Sarah according to her increasingly frantic social media posts. My accounts are temporarily restricted due to international transaction protocols. We just need to contact my financial advisor. But his financial advisor didn't exist, and the restriction wasn't temporary. Within hours, hotel security was escorting them from their £500 per night suite when Tom couldn't provide alternative payment methods or valid backup credit cards. Sarah's Instagram story from that evening showed them dragging their designer luggage down a grimy East London street, heading toward what looked like a budget hostel. "Temporary accommodation while we sort out the banking situation," she wrote, but I could see the panic creeping into her posts. The luxury lifestyle facade was crumbling faster than Tom's ability to maintain his sophisticated charm. Reports from other travelers at the hostel later revealed that Tom's suave consultant persona evaporated completely when confronted with budget accommodations and fellow backpackers who weren't impressed by his empty networking speak. The guy was clearly losing it, one hostel guest told a travel blogger who picked up the story. Kept talking about important business calls and international clients while his girlfriend looked like she was about to have a breakdown. Sarah's discovery of Tom's real situation came through the worst possible means, accidentally accessing his phone while he was in the hostel shower. Her final Instagram story from London was a shaky video of her crying in a bathroom stall, revealing that Tom's phone contained messages from an angry wife in Chicago demanding to know when daddy was coming home, and frantic voicemails from children asking why their father hadn't called them in weeks. "He's married," Sarah sobbed to her phone camera. "He has kids. A whole family back in Chicago that he never mentioned. Everything he told me was a lie. The consulting business, the international travel, the luxury lifestyle. Even this trip is paid for with money he stole from other people." The sophisticated marketing consultant who'd swept her off her feet was actually a married father running from both his family obligations and an increasingly complex web of fraud charges, using my property as his base of operations while targeting vulnerable victims like Mrs. Chen and desperate travelers looking for accommodation. My thorough documentation of Tom's activities earned immediate recognition from both my property management company and law enforcement agencies handling the case. This is exactly the kind of proactive landlord response we need more of, the district attorney's office told me during their investigation. Your evidence collection probably saved dozens of additional victims from being scammed. The story gained significant media attention when investigative reporters discovered the full scope of Tom's operations. Channel 7's Consumer Protection segment featured my building as an example of how rental fraud targets both property owners and vulnerable community members. Mr. Johnson's quick thinking and detailed record-keeping helped authorities uncover a sophisticated fraud ring that affected over 30 victims across 5 states, the anchor reported. The total damages exceeded $200,000, with victims ranging from elderly retirees like Mrs. Chin to young families who'd lost vacation deposits to Tom's fake rental listings. My role in exposing the scheme led to speaking opportunities at landlord association meetings and property management conferences. The key is recognizing red flags early and building relationships with law enforcement, I explained to audiences of fellow property owners. Too many landlords treat problem tenants as isolated incidents instead of potential criminal enterprises. The local Chamber of Commerce invited me to join their fraud prevention task force, working with banks and businesses to identify and report suspicious activities before they escalated into major crimes. My property management company promoted my case as a model for tenant screening and ongoing monitoring procedures. The FBI agent handling Tom's case kept me updated on their investigation's progress. Your initial documentation gave us the foundation we needed to build federal charges, she explained. Without your evidence, this would have been much harder to prosecute, and Tom might have successfully fled the country with additional stolen funds. Local news stations featured me as a rental fraud prevention expert, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the opportunity to help other property owners protect their investments and their communities. The goal isn't just recovering lost rent, I explained during a television interview. It's preventing criminals from using our properties to hurt innocent people. My quick response had disrupted Tom's exit strategy and provided authorities with the evidence they needed to build comprehensive charges that would ensure serious consequences when he was eventually captured. 8 months after that devastating coffee shop conversation with Sarah, justice finally caught up with Tom Mitchell at Heathrow Airport during what appeared to be another attempted international escape. British authorities arrested him on an extradition warrant and sent him back to face multiple felony charges including grand theft, identity fraud, money laundering, and interstate wire fraud. The prosecution's case was airtight thanks to the evidence I'd helped compile, and Tom ultimately accepted a plea deal for 12 years in federal prison plus full restitution to his victims. Sarah's situation became equally dramatic but far less sympathetic. She returned from London financially devastated and facing her own legal troubles as investigators determined her social media posts documenting their luxury lifestyle made her a potential accessory after the fact. Several of Tom's victims filed civil lawsuits against her, claiming she'd knowingly benefited from stolen funds while promoting his fraudulent lifestyle to potential future victims. She might not have known about the fraud initially, the prosecutor explained to me, but her social media activity suggests she continued promoting his fake success even after red flags appeared. Sarah was forced to move back in with her parents, declare bankruptcy, and take minimum wage retail jobs while her reputation was completely destroyed. Her LinkedIn profile disappeared, her Instagram account went private, and mutual friends told me she'd become essentially unemployable in marketing after the scandal broke. Meanwhile, my property management business flourished beyond anything I'd imagined. The media attention brought new clients who appreciated my thorough approach to tenant screening and fraud prevention. I expanded into consulting services, helping other landlords implement security measures and working with law enforcement on similar cases. The speaking engagements evolved into a legitimate secondary income stream, and I found genuine satisfaction in helping people protect their investments and communities. More importantly, I met Emma Rodriguez at a landlord association conference where we were both presenting on fraud prevention techniques. She owned a portfolio of rental properties across 3 counties and had her own experience dealing with problematic tenants and criminal activity. It's refreshing to meet someone who takes this seriously, she told me after my presentation. Most landlords treat problem tenants as unavoidable expenses instead of potential crimes in progress. Emma and I started collaborating professionally, then personally, building a relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and complete honesty about our backgrounds and expectations. She appreciated my methodical approach to business and life, and I admired her intelligence and dedication to protecting vulnerable tenants from predatory situations. Our relationship developed naturally without drama, manipulation, or financial games, 2 adults who'd learned from experience and were ready to build something genuine together. A year later, Emma and I were engaged, planning a future based on partnership rather than performance, with someone who valued substance over superficial luxury.